Hi guys, welcome in our next video from the YouTube channel Sharing with People. Today we will continue with what we've started during the last time, and that's our automation inside N8N, which is meant to describe automatically YouTube video. So it describes, creates the name of the video, it creates timeline, it creates subtitles, and it creates all these things inside several languages. In my case it's only English and Czech, but of course you can create much more, and then it automatically uploads all this information into the YouTube, which means if you are a creator, then the only thing which is necessary is to do the video, then edit the video, and then you just pass this video to the AI automation. But of course you can use it even just to describe some different video, or you can just take from the flow how to create subtitles, and then you can summarize the content based on the subtitles and so on. Or you can just learn how to use the capability of Google Gemini models to simply understand video, including sound. But with that said, let's just quickly remind ourselves how it looks like if it's automatically transcribed, and then I of course add into the sources of the video the first one so that you can watch it all together. So this is what the AI automation is doing. So it will create the name of the video, it will create the description, it will automatically put all these tags, support and whatever. It will also write down the timeline because it will simply go over the video, and then it will extract from the video sources. On top of that, it will also create subtitles. So as you can see, we have here the subtitles. We can even do it manually. So here it's manually, or if we switch as a text. I believe that YouTube is adding also their AI, so then it's smart enough to simply split it and fix it, which is just working in our favor. So we will just cancel it, and then as you can see, it also translated it into Czech language, and of course we have also Czech captions. Again, it's okay. I mean, in case of Czech, obviously the YouTube is not doing the same as in case of English. So if we do video in English, then we can use much more AI tools, and it's also much easier for the AI tools to understand what we want to do. So that's more than enough. Let's jump back into N8N. Let's zoom in, and during the last video we've described these first two blocks, which are meant to simply prepare the video. So let's just quickly recap. In case you want to use Gemini models and you want to pass it a huge video which can have a gigabyte or maybe hundreds of megabytes, then you have to do it through Google Files API. Google Files API works in a way that you simply upload there something, then the Files API pre-processes it, and then it will give it into the model as tokens. But you will get a link, and then you can simply share the link in between calls. And obviously if you share the same link in between calls, then also caching works. And in case of video and audio, which is for example 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes long, then it's very beneficial because the cached tokens cost much less. But we will describe this during now the generation of SRT files. And now we've also discussed that if we want to increase the probability that weaker model, which is Gemini 2.4, 2.5 Flash, processes and creates SRT file properly, then instead of giving it full video, we can only give it audio. It will also limit the amount of tokens that we pass there, because Gemini 2.5 Pro is very expensive. So in case we can use Gemini Flash, then let's do it, because it's like 4 or 5 times cheaper. Good. So now let's start with how this step 2 generate SRT and translate them works. So as we've discussed, we are using Baserow. Baserow is just a database inside which we can store the data and then load them, which means if our flow fails somewhere, then we can execute just the single step, and the single step would load all the data from the Baserow. If I just show you how the Baserow looks like, so you can see it's just kind of database into which you can store things. Good. So here what we are doing, we are deciding if we are generating the SRT file based on the, let me make it bigger, based on the directly uploaded sound, or if we do it just from files API. So what does it mean? It simply means if we are doing it based on files API, then the only thing which we have to do is to pass. In my case, I'm passing hyperparameters. Hyperparameters are changing how the model behaves, so we are simply saying here if we are allowing the model to think, and what is the temperature. Temperature influences how the models select token, so the lower the temperature, the bigger the probability that the model will take the most probable tokens as next, which simply makes the model more deterministic. And then we are passing the file data, and in this case the file data is just type, which our case can be audio or video, and then we are passing file URI, and file URI is simply the uploaded URI that we received from Gemini Files API. So we are simply telling the model where to find the pre-processed and prepared tokens of video and audio. Alternatively, if we are only uploading the audio from the video, then we simply stripped the audio, and here we are taking the MP3 file out of Baserow, so we simply do get, and we will end with a binary data. Then we translate this binary data into base64 encoded string. Please keep in mind that if we want to directly pass the data into the Gemini inside HTTP request, then it's necessary for it to be up to 20-21 megabytes, because otherwise it will very likely fail, because there would be a limit. So here, when we are setting the parameters, we are again setting that model can think. What is the temperature? That's the same what we saw in a few minutes ago. And here, instead of files data, we are sending inline data. So we are simply stating that the model will get directly. In this case, it will be MIME type of MP3. And then as data, we are passing these base64 encoded data as JSON string. Based on my experience, when you pass only the audio file into Gemini 2.0 Flash, then you significantly speed it up and significantly increase the success rate. In case of 2.5 Pro, even if you pass the whole video with audio, the model is able usually to handle it on first try, but the problem is that it's pretty expensive. So now, because we have here this if, we have to set these two branches into common variables, because we would be then trying to retry if it fails several times by tuning the hyperparameters. So we are a little mimicking the behavior of the AI agent, but it's very basic. So we simply set hyperparameters, files URI, and used model, so that we can simply swap in between Gemini 2.0 Flash and 2.0 Pro. And then this set hyperparameters 7 would be holding for us the binary data, and here we are changing hyperparameters, so we are again setting the hyperparameters, because in case that our first attempt fails, we will send it different hyperparameters, but simultaneously what we have to do, we have to somehow store and then reload the same files URI and used model. And that's why it's here so complicated, that from these two if branches, set hyperparameters 4 and set hyperparameters 6, we send it into 7, so that in both cases there is just single node, and this single node is passing the values into set hyperparameters, and the set hyperparameters can be changed here. If it fails, then it simply, here if it fails, then if it failed, then it goes through into switch, and if we are at first, then we try to change hyperparameters. So as you can see, we are increasing here the temperature. We are setting only hyperparameters. So when it reaches this point, then it will set only hyperparameters, and we have to still from somewhere take the file URI and used model, and that's the trick we are doing here with hyperparameters 7. So from these two branches, one is used, then it sets hyperparameters 7. So this means is simply holding the value, and even if we like start here this another iteration and we change only hyperparameters, then we simply only overwrite hyperparameters, we take the previous file URI and used model, and then we again call the Gemini model. So this thing here is just several attempts that we are trying to slowly increase or change the thinking to be allowed, and that's it, that's the magic. Now if we open this Gemini call, I'm doing it directly, which means I'm using HTTP post method, so then it looks like this. We simply, based on description and documentation, call the API. Here we are replacing with the model, so it's either 2.5 Flash or 2.5 Pro, and then inside JSON body we simply send it instructions. So we are saying you are a two-stage expert for creating and translating subtitles. Then we simply describe how the subtitles should look like, how it should behave, and so on. And when we are done with this description, which is system prompt, then inside contents role user, we send the parts which are the data, so it's either the files API URI or it's this inline data, in case we are sending only audio which is up to 20 megabytes in size. And then here we send the text from user point of view, so we are usually just passing some variables, so we are telling that input for SRT is uploaded audio, and it's inside primary language, and we want this language for translation. Then what is amazing about the Gemini models, you can pass it this generation configuration. So here we are passing hyperparameters, as we mentioned, allowed, disabled thinking, or what is the temperature. And then amazing is that we can also provide the Gemini model with response schema. And if we provide it with response schema, so here we are just telling that we want JSON with subtitles and subtitles translated, and what is the type, and that we require both of them to be present, so that the model knows how to output the JSON, and JSON is then amazing that it can be processed very easily. Alternatively, you can also add here description, and if you add here description, then you can even further explain the model what to do. So when this is done, then here we are checking if by any case it generated invalid subtitle file, that for example it's missing some pieces, so it's just matching the regexp, because SRT file there is always number, then timestamp, and then for example 2 lines of text, and then again another higher number, timestamp, and so on, which I'll show you in a while. Just realize that we are giving the model audio and we want him to understand the audio, and then even including timestamps generate precisely what we want him to do. So it's quite complex task. Then what we also do, we check the line ends, if it's Linux or Unix line ends or Windows, and then based on what we discovered, we either just pass it through, which means we simply take out the subtitles and then here subtitles translated, and if no, then we simply replace the N with RN so that it's Windows type of end lines. When this is done, then we simply set the text, and then as a text we send it into the code, because the model is given, let's say that it's transcribing 20 minutes or 30 minutes of text. Time to time it simply makes some basic mistakes. For example, instead of comma it will put there colon to simply split in between milliseconds this last part in SRT file, which I'll show you in a while. So we simply create a code here, it's JavaScript code, what we can do inside N8N, and it simply parses the subtitles and correct them. So for example, if there is missing new line, if there is wrong format, then the model itself did already a great job because it passed up to this point. So here we can just using the JavaScript correct it, and it's even nicely explained here. Now, and then we convert it into the file, upload into the Baserow, and then we put it finally into the Baserow itself. Now, in case you need to fine-tune the prompt, then prompt can be fine-tuned in very simply way. You simply take this first prompt, you can take this vol JSON, and the only thing what you have to do is that you open your Gemini, ChatGPT or whatever, and you simply tell him, I have this prompt, I want you to improve it. And then the Gemini Pro is able to help you and improve it. Or you can go as far as, for example, here, when you have code block, you can just copy the JavaScript, paste it into Gemini, and then simply tell it to improve it based on what you want it to do. So it's that easy. You don't have to code it yourself, you can use Gemini. Or if you have here input, then you can just take a picture, and besides giving it code and describing what you want to do, you can also give it a picture of input, and then the Gemini 2.5 Pro is able to make wonders. So it will just give you code, you paste it there, then you test it, execute it, and you know if it works or not. For this video, again, this will be more than enough. The last thing that I want to mention, how you can come up with this JSON and how we would know that this is how it looks like, this is the JSON that I should send there. In this case, there is an invaluably useful tool which is called Google AI Studio. So if you go into Google AI Studio, you simply select Pro or Flash. If you select Flash, let be it, and then you can, for example, upload a file. So I don't know, I can upload this PDF, And when you upload this PDF and you want to know how it looks like as a code, if you want to simply call it through API, or for example, you can disable, enable thinking, you can request structured output, and so on. Then here you only hit get SDK code to chat with Gemini, and it will print you how to use it. And you see here there is this contents, role user, inline data. So here you see that you can even use your Google Drive because it uploaded it into Google Drive. So this is how it can be used from Google Drive. So then you can just copy paste it. Here is text, and here are like the details how to do it. So this is how I learned how to do it, or you can just hit here Gemini API and go there and read the documentation. But to me, this seems like the easiest thing to do, because you see here like everything, how to do it, and you can learn a lot, and it's for free playing with Google AI Studio. So that's how you can come up with the prompt. Good, so now let's just quickly check how it looks like, and this will be more than enough for today. And for next video we will start looking how to generate the metadata and then upload finally the video into the YouTube. So now I'll just quickly show you the SRT file, and we have it here. So let me zoom in, and if I open it, so this is how valid SRT file looks like. So as I mentioned, there is number, then you have timestamp in hour, minute, second, comma, millisecond, and then the same and so on. So now if you think about it, we gave it only audio or video and audio, and then the model was smart enough to understand what is being said, transcribe it, but besides transcribing it, it was also able to follow the instruction that it should split it into smaller pieces. So for example, at most 10 seconds long. So it's just trying to split it, and it's also trying to follow the precise structure how the SRT file should look like. Of course, the model itself is not deterministic, but it's good enough to do it. And then as you saw, we are able to correct for small mistakes using our JavaScript. And then here it's just as SRT, and then you can just upload it into YouTube later. So this is it. I hope that I've inspired you to try yourself, because it can be used for anything, not just uploading video into the YouTube itself. And now I have left only one last thing, and that's to wish you to have the most amazing rest of the day as you can. And I'm looking forward to tackling with you another section. And until then, bye bye.